So, Dimitri, I guess we can start off by the announcement. We played part of that clip in the news. Quebec's immigration minister, Jean-François Roberge, announcing a moratorium on some programs relative to immigrants. What do you make of this announcement today?
It's very confusing, to say the least, Aaron. I think ultimately the Quebec government has lost track of people. Aaron, do you remember the scene in Hunt from Red October when the Russian diplomat comes over and tells his U.S. counterpart that they've lost yet another submarine? And I don't quite understand why these two programs, because both of these programs actually seek out, with very specific criteria, people that Quebec actually needs. The first one is called the Quebec Experience Program. This program allows foreign graduates and temporary foreign workers to apply for permanent residence in Quebec if they have already the work experience or the study experience in the province. So these are people that have come internationally to Quebec, have studied here, for example, and then they say, we want to stay here permanently. Is that not exactly what we're looking for? The other program, the regular skilled worker program, this is a program that's aimed at skilled workers who wish to settle permanently in Quebec. Unlike the PEC, it's primarily targeting individuals who are not yet living in Quebec. So these are people from other countries who are raising their hand and saying, we want to follow your rules. We want to come to Quebec. We want to come to Canada, and we want to contribute. And again, both of these programs have specific guidelines by which the criteria of selection has been set in such a way where these are the people we're actually looking for. What did the federal immigration minister do today? Well, if Quebec won't take these people that we actually need, the rest of Canada will.
Yeah, and I know I spoke to Mark Miller not that long ago. And the idea of having some of these immigrants move to different places around the country where in theory it sounds like, A, a great idea, and B, it should. Apparently some of the provinces are not all that keen on this.
Well, yes and no. And the issue is here, what kind of workers are we looking for? The challenge and the elephant in the room is actually the temporary side of our immigration system, where you have big conglomerates, big corporations like Tim Hortons, like Walmart, like McDonald's, who are bringing in temporary foreign workers, paying them cheap, paying them minimum wage, whereas the programs I'm talking about, the ones that Quebec is putting a moratorium on, it actually helps meet the province's economic needs by selecting skilled workers. We can talk about plumbers, we can talk about early childhood educators, we can talk about nurses, we can talk about electricians. So, yes, look at temporary foreign workers who are here and how can we better manage? Because, yes, the immigration system is out of control. Way too many people, exponentially more. I mean, the current federal government has tripled, and you saw it. You spoke to the federal immigration minister, I assume earlier today. Even the federal government is scaling back its benchmarks. But for the Quebec government to look at these two programs and make those two programs the priority to cut or the priority to put a moratorium makes no sense, because Quebec's needs continue to increase. These are people that can build homes. These are people that can offer social services. These are people that can tangibly contribute to the growth and the economic development of the province of Quebec.
Some of them, however, Dimitri, if I read this right, are students as well, right? They're making a very obvious choice here not to have as many temporary foreign students come into the province either.
Right. But do we not, when a temporary student comes into Quebec, do we not want to keep those that, after having studied in the province of Quebec, actually want to stay and apply their knowledge in the province of Quebec? I agree, and I can sympathize with the argument of we need to decrease the number of temporary foreign students, but those who come, study, and then immediately leave thereafter, not those who come here, study, and actually want to become a part of Quebec society and contribute. So this is where the immigration system, both at the provincial level and at the federal level, it seems that they've lost control of what it is that we need, what it is that we want, and how do we achieve the objective.
Yeah, I wonder, though, in the case, and we'll move on, but I wonder in the case of these students who come here, they get an education, and we should let them in if they're going to stay. We don't really have any control by the time they graduate as to where and how they leave or what they do or where they go, do we?
Very little, and that's a good point, Aaron. And that's where, for example, the government of Ontario a couple of weeks ago made an announcement. As of 2026, the only students that will be eligible to study, for example, specifically, who will be able to study medicine in the province of Ontario are Ontario students and students who want to study medicine from the rest of Canada. They will no longer accept applications from foreign students who want to come into Ontario, study medicine, and then leave. And again, we need a targeted approach in terms of prioritizing the trades, because some of them go to college or CEGEP, some of them go to university. We need to prioritize those sectors, those faculties, and make sure that above all else, Canadian students across the country have access to these faculties before we allow international students to come in. And as you say, come in, study, and then leave.
And if Ontario's doing it, given the situation, and I know this is across the country as far as medical students are concerned and doctors and the shortage, et cetera, you think Quebec is probably going to follow along pretty soon. I imagine a lot of those students were McGill students who come here, study here, and then pick up and take off, whether it's to the U.S. or back to other countries they came from. Right. And I think that's a situation that's probably going to get addressed here as well. Let me move on from that. I want to know what you think about the mutiny that didn't happen, isn't going to happen, and this whole idea that as far as Yves-François Blanchet is concerned, leader of the Bloc Québécois, he can huff and he can puff. He's not blowing any houses down, is he?
This is actually a crushing defeat for Yves-François Blanchet. Why is that? If the Liberals and the Conservatives actually play their hand right on this one, the message to Quebecers who are considering voting Bloc is the following. If the Bloc Québécois was unable to extract concessions from a federal government that is probably at its weakest point within a minority context, what influence or impact will the Bloc Québécois actually have when the government is a majority government? He huffed, he puffed, and the Liberals completely ignored him. The deadline came, the deadline went, and nothing really happened. At the same time, what this is now signaling, because yesterday Jagmeet Singh came out and said, while I've ripped up the agreement, while Justin Trudeau is the worst thing since sliced bread, even though sliced bread is not such a bad thing, I will continue to prop up Justin Trudeau. This basically evacuates the possibilities of an election between now and Christmas. This now means that the electoral calendar is punted over to late winter, early spring. This begs the question as to whether or not the Prime Minister, and again, we're going to use the P word, is going to prorogue Parliament.
Yeah.
A cabinet shuffle is coming. What the government is telegraphing is that it's going to be a minor cabinet shuffle, but these things change overnight. Is Justin Trudeau going to bring in somebody like Mark Carney into cabinet? As for the mutiny, the failed mutiny, it ended up completely withering away. And all those who basically tried to challenge Justin Trudeau, and it was about 24, 25 caucus members, were told not once, not twice, but more than that, that whether you like it or not, I'm staying. If you don't like it, you can leave. And the point I'll make to that, Aaron, is I have a problem with these 24 Judases, as I like to call them. At the end of the day, they owe their political career to Justin Trudeau. And in politics, it's great to bathe and to bask in the glory of victory. But when the ship is going down, especially in politics, you go down with the ship along with everybody else.
So it turns out to be much ado about nothing, as Shakespeare might have said. Okay. Real quick here, Dimitri, what's this story about Liberal Housing Minister gets a note from some Conservative MPs asking him to grant their communities funding from a program that Pierre Poilievre called disastrous this week? Talk about mutinies. What's going on here?
Well, while any program exists, and this was an interesting attempt by the housing minister, who used to be the immigration minister, and now Mark Miller is trying to clean up the mess that his predecessor left behind. It is so common practice that members of parliament, opposition members of parliament, write these letters to ministers, basically advocating on behalf of their constituents for whatever federal program exists. What I can tell you is, whether it's when the Liberals are in opposition or in this case that the Conservatives are in opposition, I suspect with quite a bit of certainty that these Conservative MPs prefer their plan to the current plan. But while the plan exists, while this program exists, they might as well try and get something out of it. It's very interesting that what Pierre Poilievre announced this week at the same time, which seems to have quite a bit of support and unanimous consent, is that he will remove the GST from any new homes built under $1 million. And what he said ultimately is, I will scrap that Liberal program that even my caucus members are trying to get a piece of the pie for something that's even better.
Okay. Again, I'm not sure if that meant, these MPs going behind his back was a sign of something. You're suggesting it's not.
Very common practice.
Okay.
Opposition MPs write letters to ministers, whether it's on a grant, whether it's on a constituent regarding an immigration file. At the end of the day, members of parliament, especially when they're in opposition, have to show something to their constituents that they're trying their very best to get a specific issue resolved for a constituent or getting a piece of a grant.
Dimitri, I thank you. Appreciate the time. Have a good one.
Always a pleasure. You too.